JBN, we keep you informed. NCU lecturer found dead in Manchester. The Manchester police have launched an investigation into the murder of a Northern Caribbean University NCU lecturer who was found dead at his home in Sedberg, Christiana, yesterday morning. He is 62-year-old Dr. Gordon Lightburn, an associate professor in the Department of Biology, Chemistry and Environmental Sciences at NCU. According to the Police Corporate Communications Unit, CCU, Dr. Lightburn was found dead after his helper turned up at his residence sometime Friday morning but got no responses from him after multiple calls to let her inside. She then reportedly saw Dr. Lightburn on the floor through a window. The police were called, and upon their arrival, his body was found lying in a pool of blood in his bathroom with multiple gunshot wounds. Residents reportedly heard loud explosions 3 days ago, but no report was made to the police. Dr. Lightburn is said to have lived alone. He was instrumental in several of NCU's breakthroughs in research. 3 guns seized. St James chef charged. Police have reported the arrest of 29-year-old Christopher Hoyt, otherwise called Stringy, a chef of Hendon, Norwood, in St James on charges of illegal possession of firearms and ammunition. He was arrested at his home on Wednesday, August 5. The St James police report that about 6 p.m., a team of officers on operation in pursuit of wanted men and illegal firearms conducted a search at Hoyt's home where 2 firearms, 3 magazines, and 11 rounds of ammunition were seized. A further search was carried out at a cook shop Hoyt operates in his community, and a 3rd firearm along with a magazine containing 7 rounds of ammunition was found. A court date has not yet been scheduled, the police said. FID forfeits cash from Al-Faisal. The Financial Investigations Division, FID, of the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service was successful yesterday in forfeiting cash in the amount of $524,000 and £1,850 from Abdullah Al-Faisal in the St. Catherine Parish Court. The money was seized by the police in 2017 under Jamaica's Proceeds of Crime Act POCA during Al-Faisal's arrest. This followed a search of his home address in furtherance of an extradition warrant on behalf of the U.S. government, which alleges his involvement in terrorism offenses. Investigations were conducted by the FID in relation to the origin and intended use of the cash, and an application for its forfeiture was made to the court. The matter was contested, a trial held, and the money was ordered to be forfeited to the Crown. The ministry noted that this follows on the heels of the recent Court of Appeal judgment, which upheld the application for Al-Faisal to be extradited to the United States to stand trial. Chief Technical Director of the FID, Selvin Hayes, said, "This forfeiture highlights the commitment of FID and its partners, in this instance, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, to robustly apply the Proceeds of Crime legislation where appropriate, in conjunction with any investigation being conducted. The majority of criminal and indeed civil investigations being conducted across Jamaica inevitably involve profit, and this profit can and will be taken from these persons who are concerned in any way. The public needs to understand that there are a large number of offenses committed under POCA, not just by the person initially committing crime, but by any person who knowingly assists either before, during, or after the fact, and FID and wider law enforcement will leave no stone unturned in the effort to deter persons from committing and profiting from crime," he continued. Government must accept responsibility for a role in mismanagement of COVID-19 crisis, says Guy. Opposition spokesman on health and wellness, Dr. Maurice Guy, is urging the government to embrace accountability in its management of the coronavirus pandemic instead of seeking to transfer blame to the Jamaican people for the crisis in which the nation has been plunged. Responding to the spike in new coronavirus cases, Dr. Guy said there had been many unheeded warnings from the opposition and several other stakeholders to take into account common sense measures and to foster an atmosphere of inclusiveness as a response to forging a national approach. The government must embrace accountability and do not blame the people. There is no proper monitoring system in place for persons quarantined, as many continue to breach the order with impunity. Persons coming into the island were left on their own to interact with communities and attend events with no provision for sanctions. This kind of carelessness would automatically lead to community spread, Dr. Guy said. The shadow minister said the near panic reaction to the spike and the 2 new quarantine areas announced were avoidable, had the government taken advice and had a more inclusive policy. He said the Prime Minister's unseemly attempt to apportion blame on the people instead of taking responsibility should not be allowed to stand. This government chose to focus on public relations gimmicks, creating a false narrative, giving the impression that they had things under control, leading people to believe that they were safe. Hence, the protocols, which were late in coming, were largely observed in the breach, Dr. Guy said. He said the calls for pre-testing of people entering the island with the reopening of the borders were ignored, and even a decision to test on entry was eventually abandoned. He noted that thousands of samples were collected with no test results available for months, rendering them useless, and said many persons who were tested left the island before results were available. While this was happening, the nation was assured that test results would have been available within 24 to 48 hours after testing, the Shadow Minister pointed out. Dr. Guy added that the first responders and healthcare workers are still short of adequate supplies of personal protective gears, even as the number of hospitalizations surges. Where will we go? 87-year-old stumped by a highway relocation puzzle. Residents of Redberry, near Ports in Manchester, are still not satisfied with how their matters surrounding their dislocation, especially in terms of compensation and relocation, are being handled by officials overseeing the construction of the South Coast Highway. Wednesday's meeting with representatives of the National Road Operating and Construction Company and the China Harbour Engineering Company, CHEC, failed to clear up issues for some residents who said that the discussions only raised more questions in their minds. Among those not satisfied is Winfred McClarty, whose 87-year-old mother, Lena Patterson, who has lived in the community for more than 50 years, is yet to find a suitable place to relocate to without compensation up front. They are not relocating her. They are removing her because they haven't found anywhere for her to move. She lives in her own house and has her title, and for her to move is going to be rough. They said they're going to give us $160,000 to pay rent. To go where? I don't know, McClarty said. She said that they were told that they had to relocate in 6 weeks and would only receive full compensation once there's proof that they have moved out of the house. We don't even know how things are going to go long term because where we live and where they are planning to build the road, only a fence would part us, McClarty said. I hear there's also going to be an overhead bridge, and we may very well be affected when it rains because the house would then be in something like a gully. Another resident, Annette Francis, said that she left the meeting with more unanswered questions than before. We went into the meeting expecting to hear about the dust, noise, and the disrespect because they're coming to the area and start the work without meeting with us, she said. We had to stop the work last week by protesting. We finally got to some NROC people, and I think that is how we had this meeting today. Francis said that she was dissatisfied with the representation from Manchester Southern Member of Parliament Michael Stewart, and said that the residents were basically fighting on their own. Me no know what the MP do, but him now represent we. Even at the meeting today, where my son make no sense. There are 2 liaison officers there, and he's saying he did not send anyone there and knows nothing about the work. So we want to know who sent them, she said. With at least 4 old graves on a section of land to be cleared, residents say that they believe major work will be resumed as soon as the contracted funeral home completes exhumation. We are partially satisfied with the meeting because they say they'll pay us for any crops and fruit trees that have to be removed. But I'm not happy with the fact that people have to move by August 30 and them don't pay any money, one resident said. Also, I don't know what them plan to do about drainage because porous, especially Red Bottom, is known for flooding. When contacted, NROC Managing Director Ivan Anderson said the meeting was productive and that the company was in the process of acquiring houses for residents who would need to relocate. Where we are acquiring houses, once persons have agreed and signed the documentation, persons are paid an initial sum in advance to allow them to relocate, and the balance is paid within 7 days on proof that they have vacated the premises, he explained. The period of time that the homeowners need to relocate is always agreed between both parties, he added. Anderson also said that a misunderstanding had caused CHEC to clear a section of land they were not authorized to touch, and that the issue has been cleared up with the residents. $82 million for a security ministry truck driving program. The Ministry of National Security has spent approximately $82 million to acquire 2 mobile driving simulators to train at-risk youth residing in vulnerable communities in St James and Kingston to operate heavy-duty vehicles. The ministry said the simulators were commissioned by Prime Minister Andrew Holness and the Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang at the Cornwall Automotive Training Institute in Montego Bay yesterday. According to Dr. Chang, the acquisition is in keeping with the technology component of the ministry's Music, Sports and Technology program to engage, train and certify at-risk youth in specialized skill areas. He said the move will facilitate behavioral change and deliver certified training, which will result in socioeconomic opportunities for at-risk youth in vulnerable communities. The minister pointed out that music, sports, and technology are proven to shape interpersonal relationships, perspectives of young people, and reduce juvenile delinquency while encouraging contact with positive role models. Boys in particular use these avenues as gateways to sustaining bonds among themselves. Some of our most volatile communities have used music and sports to positively contribute to neighborhood transformation, and technology continues to have a phenomenal impact on how young people access, process, and communicate information, as it is a catalyst for the surge in new skills training and employment opportunities in the global space, emphasized Dr. Chang. Meanwhile, Kevin Lee, instructor and assistant lecturer for the Articulate Truck Driving Program at the Caribbean Maritime University, says the program generally spans a course of 3 months or approximately 150 hours and enables participants to enhance their skills in driving heavy-duty equipment, which prepares them for jobs locally and overseas. The simulator is good because it mirrors 97% of real-life experiences. We focus not only on driving, but also on defensive driving, such as how to handle a loss of brake while going downhill, he said. The ministry said the simulators also provide experience in difficult weather and bad road conditions such as slippery, wet and snow-covered roads. JBN, we keep you informed. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.